All right, let's go to Elizabeth in Columbia, South Carolina. What's up, Elizabeth? How we doing?
Hi, Dr. John. It's so great to talk to you.
It is super great to talk to you. What's up?
All right. So, the topic of my question is on gun ownership, and
Oh, cool. We're just gonna come out. We're gonna slow roll this one out of the gate. Way to go! All right, let's talk
straight
guns.
to the point.
Let's talk guns.
Okay. So, gun ownership and how to approach the topic of bringing guns into the house with my roommates.
Okay.
Need some backstory?
Back it up.
Okay. So, context. So, I run a house with 3 other girls. We're great friends. We've known each other for a while, part of the same church community. We're great together. And recently I found out that one of them actually has a history of having guns as like a hobby. Like her family's really into it. And when I found out that, I was really excited because I've been wanting to learn about how to shoot for a while now.
Okay.
And so when we both found out that we were interested, we got really excited. We talked about potentially buying our own guns in the future and going and her teaching me how to shoot and us going to the range and just having a good time like that. The issue that we've come across is we don't know how to approach that topic with our other 2 roommates, like whether or not we need to even disclose that we're getting guns at all, if we don't even plan on giving them any access to them, or if we need to have like a roommate meeting prior, or I just wanted to get your opinion on that and think about if there's any other factors I'm not taking into consideration.
So I got so many questions. This is fantastic. Okay. Trying to think of how to start. So let me frame it this way. And this is me talking to you, but this is me also talking to the audience just to give them some context.
Okay.
I'm the son of a homicide detective who's born and raised in Texas. And I had one of my therapy professors, my counseling professors, Dr. Marbley says, gave me some wisdom that was so great. She said, she's from Chicago and then she's a professor in Texas. And she said, problem with talking about guns is we talk past each other. Because in Texas, and I'm using Texas in South Carolina and wherever, right? Alabama, whatever you want to say. Regionally, grandmother will have a small gun in her purse. It's just kind of I don't know anybody in my life. I do now, but at the time I didn't know anybody in my life that didn't have a shotgun in her. It's just a way of being. And then she said in Chicago, I didn't know anybody that had guns that wasn't involved in some sort of crime, right? And of course, this is 15 years ago, 10 years ago, so that's changed. But she said, so when somebody in one part of the country hears about guns, they instantly have a picture of a bad person. In the other part of the country, when somebody mentions guns, they instantly have a picture of their grandma. And so we end up with different pictures. We use the same words. We're talking about guns and gun ownership and what we do, and we talk past each other. And so I've been around guns my whole life. I have a bunch, right? Not a bunch, like I'm not an arsenal guy, but and I've cleaned brains off of a bathroom wall before. And I have hugged mothers, and I have been after shootings, and I've helped be a part of SWAT training exercises. So there is a stark reality to the other side of this thing, okay? And I think both sides of the conversation get lost. I'm so grateful that you're asking this question because I think there's a different way to have this conversation than we've been having. So let me ask you, I got 2 questions. One's going to fully answer your question. The other one is kind of a diversion here. First question is, there's something about your other 2 roommates that they won't like this or you wouldn't even be asking me this question. So what's your concern with bringing it up?
Okay, so with one of the 2, I'm like 99% sure she will be fine with it because like she's just a level-headed person in general. She's even disclosed that she has a stun gun that she keeps on her in her room just for like safety reasons.
Okay.
The other one, she actually has I know it used to be called Asperger's. I know they don't really use that term anymore right now, but basically high functioning autism.
Okay.
And we've had some issues in the past with just her getting like overly emotionally stimulated about certain things like coming on in the house. And we just had some issues with that. So we aren't really sure how she would react to even the thought of there being a gun in the same house where she is.
Okay. So I want to, I don't think if somebody chooses for them and their household that they don't want to have a gun in there, that doesn't mean they're not level-headed. I think that's fine.
Right.
I think that's a super personal choice.
Mm-hmm.
I think hysteria on either side of the conversation is where you get into the level-headed conversation. But if someone chooses, like, oh, I'm just not for me. I don't want that in my home. I don't want the risk. The risk statistically is infinitely more likely that you're going to hurt yourself with your own weapon than you're going to actually like pew pew a bad guy. That's just reality.
Mm-hmm.
And there's also some data out there that suggests that when people are armed in a community, the crime goes down because everybody knows, like, I'm not going to mess around. So it's both and. We need to keep having this conversation. So let me back out one step further. Why do you want one? Do you want to go? I've got some buddies that they don't play golf. They shoot trap. They go to the range. They shoot skeet. They have these fancy shotguns, and that's just what they do. That's just their thing. Or they are distance shooters. They're scope shooters, and they will sit there all day, and they dial in these things, and they got these cards for elevation and wind, and they do all this stuff. And they like to shoot. There's something about the power of it all, and the concentration and the focus, all the stuff. It just becomes like a thing, right? Like a hobby. And they like to reload their own bullets and all that. And then there's other friends of mine who are former military, they're police officers, or people that just have guns, they're around guns, they know how to use them, and they are more bent towards personal defense, and if something goes down, I want to make sure we're good. And then I've got my other friends that watch way, way, way too much John Wick. Way too much. And they watch way too much news. And they're like, if it goes down, I'm going to get on my horse and get a sword and have my red dot ready to... And they're insane. They're my friends, but they're bonkers, right? So why do you think that you want to have it? Is it something fun? Is it exciting? Or is it a self-defense thing? Or is it a fantasy thing? What is it?
Mainly, I'm interested in like the sport of it. Like the first example you gave, just like going to the range, practicing, you shooting, that focus and concentration. I've always been interested in that. Not so much like self-defense or just like crazy John Wick fantasies. I'm not really into that.
Okay.
No.
So what I would recommend here, and this may be a controversial statement, whatever, I don't care. I think every single human being should have some sort of training on how to handle a weapon. Even if it's to simply unload one really quickly, and it takes it takes less than a half second to unload a gun, to how they work. I think that's important. How to handle one if you ever had to pull the trigger. It's very, very different if you've never done it than it looks like on TV. And I actually think that's wise. I think that's good. I think there's some steps between going to buy a really expensive fancy gun, and all guns are expensive these days, versus, hey, we're going to start going to the range, and you can rent a range gun when you're there, and they'll teach you how to work it, or you can take classes where they'll let you use weapons when you're there. I think there's some steps in between. The bigger question is, let's take guns off. And these are like when I get questions about, transgender issues or abortion issues or gun. I want to take the issue off the table for a second and just come back to, you have a value or a belief or a desire or a need, one of those four things, and you are feeling uncomfortable living in your own home. So the conversation is less about guns right now, and it's more about, as you described it, I've got a roommate who gets overly emotional about certain things, and I'm increasingly uncomfortable because I can't even bring up this. I can't even broach a conversation. And when I find myself in my home and I can't even have a conversation about it, then what I have? I've got secrets, and secrets turn to resentment, and you hear me say that all the time, resentment turns to ash, and then the whole thing becomes a mess. And then it's not about guns at all. Gun become the proxy war for, I don't like you, I don't want to live with you, because I can't, quote unquote, be myself. I can't tell the truth in my own house. Am I onto something there?
Yeah.
There's probably something else besides guns that you don't want to talk to her about. What is it? Just pick one. There's probably several.
I mean, it's living with someone who has like that high functioning autism. It's taught me a lot about how to put the needs of others above my own. I'm really grateful for that, because it's taught me how to be a lot more humble person.
Yeah.
Like there are certain arrangements in the house there are certain arrangements in the house we have to make. Like we have to park our cars in a certain place in the drive-through because she has a certain preference for where her car gets parked, and the kitchen has to be arranged a certain way. And I have no problem with that. It's just, it's gotten a bit much at certain times that I've had to go through that with her.
So what I don't want, a couple of things. You can honor her as your friend and as a woman with autism, and you can say, I'm going to choose to not live here. All of that can be true at the same time. Okay. And what I don't want you to do is I don't want to blow your house up over the gun issue because I don't think guns are the issue.
It's not.
If you guys want to go shooting, I think that's fantastic. I think everybody should go take a class. I fully believe that. And I'm also a safety zealot when it comes to guns in my own house. I'm a lunatic about the safety of it, right? So I think it's all both and. I think the real challenge here is you've got a roommate that y'all are starting to get tense with, and I don't want the quote-unquote gun issue to be the thing that breaks you up. I'd rather, here's my needs now. My needs are when I get home from work, the thought of, oh God, I parked the car in the wrong direction, in the wrong space. I want to choose to not live like that. And so guys, in 4 or 5 months, I'm going to start slowly looking for just a new place for me and for me and roommate X. And that'll be great for us. It's gonna be great for y'all. We're still friends, all that. I'm gonna start leaning that way. And this is a conversation to have. And rents are crazy expensive. So you may have to find other roommates. That's fine. Or you can sit down with your autistic roommate and say, hey, these are really important things to you. These are really important things to me. And we have to come to some sort of consensus because we're living together. And what I'll tell you is I've worked with innumerable high-functioning autistic folks that hear that and get that. And I've seen some extraordinary steps people have taken to say, okay, I don't understand what you're feeling. I can't process what you're feeling, but I trust that you're telling me the truth, and so I'm going to act differently. I'm going to go see my cars parked in the wrong spot, and I'm going to feel it all over my body, and then I'm going to choose to, you see what I'm saying? So it's putting your needs above other people's important, and also speaking your needs out and being heard explicitly is important too.
Mm-hmm.
See what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So what are you going to do?
I might talk this over with the other roommate who's interested, and we can see about whether or not we need to arrange a meeting with the other two and just see what their thoughts are.
I have been in some rooms with folks with autism that when they felt ganged up on, the alarms got real, real loud. Is there a way you could go have coffee with your roommate?
Yeah.
And say, how are you feeling?
Just like you get one-on-one. Yeah, that would be better.
Is that similar to your situation that when everybody kind of starts saying, yeah, and yeah, that all of a sudden, man, then your autistic roommate gets real defensive?
Oh, yeah, definitely.
Yeah, I think a more humane approach might be just one-on-one. Tell me what you're thinking about. Tell me how you've seen our relationship over the last, the beauty of not all, but some highly functioning autistic folks is they're incredibly logical and analytical. It's wonderful because we can really, like, you have your needs and I have mine, and they are starting to butt up against each other. Are there places where we can compromise together? I think that's a incredible next step. And if you think of it this way, you'll be giving your roommate a gift too. You'll be giving yourself a huge gift, which is finally letting your needs be spoken before there's a fight. Because when you have a fight, they're going to explode, and it's going to be like, you stupid liberal and you dumb conservative. Now we're not even fighting about that. The sadness is I have to hide it in my own house, and you don't want to do that anymore, and that's totally respectable. And yes, go to the range. Go take a class. I think that'd be important. I think that'd be a lot of fun. And make sure you get a good coach, and make sure y'all are really safe. And don't watch too much John Wick. It's just, if you have a sword and a horse, for sure, you need to take out some guys on motorcycles. Other than that, let's just back off the John Wick.